Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Hey Sister. Ooh, sister, them lights is shining bright like a diamond back there. What's going on, girl?
Hold on, sister. I don't hear you. You saying something to me, which I'm sure you are, because
I am
that's the
and
point of the
is.
show. Um, hmm. Why can't I hear?
I don't know.
I tell you the truth. Doesn't matter how much you prepare with technology, it's always gonna do something crazy.
Well, that's how it is. It's
Uh-huh.
technology. Well, while she's working on that and may have to switch to another device, we want
Can
to
you say something that I still can't hear, sister?
thank you for tuning in tonight to this episode of Hey Sister. What's up? What's up, Jody? Jody said she can hear us both. So we don't know what's wrong with you, Christina, but she can hear us both. Okay? All right. Well, she'll work that out. Look, in typical Hey Sister fashion, we ask that you like, follow, share, and subscribe. Join the conversation tonight in the comments. Go ahead, text this to a friend, text the YouTube link and say, hey, join me live now as we talk about Hey Sister. Because, honey, as the song goes, call the police. Oh, the hair is giving. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hey, I don't know what it's giving, but I think it's looking pretty cute. Anyway, you hear us? Can you hear us now, sister?
I can't. Sorry about that. My apologies.
No worries. Jody said my hair is giving.
I heard. I heard. Hey, Miss Jody, it's been a long time. We miss you.
It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you without a dope beat to step to. Because let me tell y'all something. The folks is out here wilding out. Wilding out. And so tonight's episode, we decided to title it Call the Police. How the song go, Quincy?
I know. I should have had it ready to go. So again, I'm just all off because I don't know why stuff is. But call the police because we ain't never going home. You got to find it real quick.
Yeah. Y'all better learn these lyrics, honey. Because we ain't going home. But we're gonna
Yeah.
have to get the hell out of here. If you don't know that, oh, let me see.
It's
Yep, call the police because we're gonna tear this place down, baby. It is a zydeco jam. You gotta understand. I love zydeco here. Anyway,
you got it. Oh, I thought you had pulled it up.
I did.
Well,
I'll give you the chorus says, why don't you call your wife, call your boss man, because we ain't never going home. Call the police, because we going to get our drinks on. And you can call the police, because we going to tear this place down. You better call the police. You better call the police, because we ain't never going home. It has its own line dance. For those of you who like line dances, if you ain't heard of Call the Police, it's a Zydeco song. Got a little two-step for it. But I'm gonna tell y'all this. We might not be going home, but we might have to get the hell up out of here. I'm just saying, as we talk, yes, we know what MWA said, and we got lots to talk about. All right. Hot topic. So let me say this. And my sister doesn't know I'm gonna say this.
Oh,
Um, I decided to start watching Chief of War on Apple TV.
okay. Yes, I've thought about it. So go ahead. Tell me
It
more.
it is going to require, it's kind of like Shogun. So if those of you who watch Shogun, you're gonna have to read. It's gonna require your reading.
Okay.
And learning the Hawaiian, we visited Hawaii. We learned a little bit about Kamehameha, but this whole thing about the islands and the four different kingdoms that they had, fascinating. Um, but for those who have an appreciation for Jason Momoa, I don't know when this was filmed. I don't know which movie he was in between doing when he did this. And there's a lot of assets that are shown on the show. But
Okay.
baby, because of course it's native, right? It's ancient, thousands of years ago.
Right.
Baby, if you got appreciation for Jason Momoa, I'm gonna just say you could just turn that on and bask
Okay.
in the glory that is Jason Momoa. That's all I'm gonna say. That's it. That's all. That's all I got to say. However, on a side note, so all jokes aside,
Mm-hmm.
learning about kind of the history of the Pacific and those Pacific islands, and you know, again, a reminder how people were traveling all over wherever there was water and land to be found. People were traveling, people were mixing, people were warring. um it's just fascinating. It's just a fascinating. So and it's something that we as American history, we've never learned about Hawaii.
Right. Not nearly enough.
No, not nearly enough. About Hawaii, about Alaska, about any of those places. So it's fascinating why. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. And then the other thing I'm gonna tell y'all is Xavier's homecoming is coming up. You can go to xulahomecoming.com. We are 80 days away from Xavier University of Louisiana Centennial Homecoming. I would love to see you there. You can also help give to my class endowment, class of 95. We are trying to endow a scholarship. And if you know what's happening at the federal level with the Department of Education and the impact on federal aid, I would say find your favorite school, donate to them all. If a lot of people donate a little, it makes a big impact. And we're going to need all the impacts we can make. But you could go to xulahomecoming.com and you can click on register. You could see class of 95 and you could go down. I'm going to say class of 95 endowment. You could click right there and do it for me. Do a little favor for me. Help us out. Help us keep these kids in college and keep our doors open. Because if they coming for Harvard and Columbia, you don't think we gonna be next? That's it. That's all I got for hot topics. What about you, sister? You got one? I know I
think we
went
have
rogue
more than
on you.
enough topics. So, and I have wasted enough time trying to get my situation situated. So let's just jump into this.
Well, I'm gonna let you take this one. It ain't ice, baby.
Well, I think everybody is aware of what is happening, particularly in Los Angeles. Obviously, we know, just like DC, which we'll talk about, like New Orleans, which we'll talk about, Los Angeles is led by a Black woman in Mayor Karen Bass. And so ICE, or Immigration and Customs Enforcement, has been deployed there now for quite a few weeks, and it's resulting in a number of clashes between civilians and ICE agents. Some people are stepping in to try to protect their family members, their relatives, their friends. Some of the local activists are encouraging economic boycotts, specifically at places like Target, that has already been being boycotted, obviously by those of us in the Black community, but also Home Depot. A lot of these raids are happening in Home Depots around Los Angeles because they know a large number of migrant workers also work in the construction industry. Recently, there was a gentleman who was fleeing ICE agents and ran out onto the highway and was struck and killed. And of course, the word from ICE was that he was not being pursued. However, I would say that if he was not being pursued, it says a lot about fears and anxieties that many people are experiencing as a result of seeing these agents at schools, at courthouses, things of that nature. I saw another, and of course, at retail, big box retail locations. Or maybe that's not considered big box since it's construction material, but whatever. You know, I saw another story where it was, I think actually it might have been local police officers attempting to stop a vehicle with 3 individuals in it. And when they refused to roll down the window and they kept driving, they were shot at. Thankfully, no one in that situation was killed. But what the young man who was in the vehicle indicated was that, you know, the gentleman driving the car I believe it was his father and his brother-in-law who were in the front seats, but I could be wrong with that. But nonetheless, he was indicating that, you know, the driver has been in the country for over 20 years. He works, he pays taxes, and he's been trying to get his citizenship, a green card, for over 20 years at this point. And so when people say things like just do it the right way, number one, I challenge, did their relatives do it the right way? And what is the right way when we have a system that's set up to discriminate against people from certain countries, to give status and priority to people from other countries? When the president's own wife received what they call an Einstein visa, and we know she is nobody's genius. Those are the kind of things that would say, well, if you fix your mouth to say the system, follow the rules of the system, then you should fix your hearts and your actions to say to fix the system that's broken. So those are my thoughts. I'll turn it to you for yours.
Yeah, well, I dropped several articles in the comments for you all to take a look at to see what's happening. And this is specifically things around in the Los Angeles and in the California area. But wherever you are, there are impacts that are happening by this heightened police presence in the guise of immigration enforcement. Because the truth is, our immigration laws and policies that need to be fixed. So this time, the right way, as you say, should not take somebody 20, 25 years.
Right.
Right. All of those dreamers who had, again, they had, I don't know what the right words is looking for, but they had a somewhat of redress under a previous administration, and then for all that to get taken away, like if it's just and if it's right, it's not going to go back and forth like this. It's not going to go back and forth and be dependent upon who is in a leadership position. If the Congress would do its job, then we might have a fair system. Now, as we know, we've traveled out the country. We know every country is talking about immigration and facing challenges with immigration and what does it mean. But we also need to be very clear and understand, as I was talking about this television show about Hawaii. Listen, people in a lot of Pacific Islands, because of climate change, they're going to need a new homeland. There are a lot of places that, because of climate change, rising sea levels, and many other disruptions, people are moving. And so as a world, we need to make some decisions about what does it mean to be an immigrant or a migrant. What does it mean to be a citizen of this world? I think everybody there's some coming to some decisions and conclusions about what that's going to mean and how people move. Because the truth is, as we approach this anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, people who were born right here in this country who were displaced were then called refugees and this, that, and the other in their own homeland. Right.
And treated like strangers, or treated like a burden, or they were burdensome. After the feel good, oh, we're helping somebody, went away. they were
Yeah, then
treated
it was
very
like, why are you
poorly.
here? You're taking things away from
Away from
me that should be going
mhm.
to someone else. Like, so all of that, we really need to think about what it means to be global citizens and what it means for people to move in and out of places, what it means to address people who are the least of these and who may be have a serious need. We need to think about that. We also need to think economic, because one of the things they talk about is economics and dollar and cents. Well, I'm gonna tell you, air air travel to the US is down. They said all the restaurants and bars in DC, since these people have been deployed on the street, plummeted. Their reservations have plummeted. With this heightened ice cold reality that we have, if people don't feel free to move, I even saw this video today where a man in the DC area, he was like, don't call don't use the DoorDashes or the Uber Eats or the any of those other Grubhub or any of those other things, because people who are doing food delivery are being targeted.
Right.
And so we have these things for our convenience, but there is then this sociological impact, psychological impact, and trauma that's happening to people, and then there's economic impacts that's happening. And it's a complete and total disruption that is unnecessary. It is harmful, and we should be outraged that any life is lost because of our Congress and our people we elect not doing their job.
And let's just call it what it is. It's racism. At the end of the day, it's racism. Because as Tiffany Cross said the other day on Abby Phillips' show, when I don't know who the white lady was talking, but she was trying to suggest that, Tiffany Cross's point to her was, we don't ever see white people being arrested. And 20% of the immigrants in this country who are not here legally are what we would consider white. But we never see those images splashed across our screens. And so it's racist. It's racist because Los Angeles is led by Karen Bass. It's racist because you just allow 49 or whatever South Africans to come here because they have white skin, and you claim that they were being oppressed. But the oppression that people have felt and dealt with in South and Central America, that's invalidated because their skin is brown. It's racism. And it's racist. It was a racist dog whistle when during your campaign you lied and talked about Haitians eating dogs and cats and are eating cats, and it went to the dogs, I believe. So yeah, these things are racist. And while the majority of people who are being attacked and targeted right now are brown hued, those of us who identify or consider ourselves to be Black, if we have a name that has an accent on it, or if our voice has a little bit of an accent, then there is no stopping it when Pandora's box is open. So now,
well, let's talk about then the DC situation, because the truth is, what's happening in DC, most definitely, people who look like you and me are being targeted.
Yes.
Based on where the traffic going in and out of the District of Columbia, from Maryland, from Virginia, and from those surrounding states that have large African American populations, large African American populations who work for the federal government or in state government. Those people are being positioned, those extra police and National Guard, and what others, the two states just sent their National Guard, committed National Guard troops. I'm like, well, okay, so when you have the
three states now. I think it was West Virginia, Ohio, and I believe Kentucky, but don't quote me on Kentucky.
Now let's say this thing about that. So West Virginia, you can spare. So the people who are National Guard, who have their regular job,
right,
who might be a dentist, who might be a doctor, might be a veterinarian, might be a police, might work at Walmart, what be a police. They just run the gamut. Just regular people who are National Guard, who serve the military in this way. You mean to tell me I got to leave my job and leave my family for this piss poor salary to go walk around? And in West Virginia, who has the biggest opioid crisis out there? You mean they got to go to be on police patrol on the streets of DC? Are you kidding me? So, okay, and then South Carolina, okay, so then what happens if you have a natural disaster, which you have had?
Right.
They just had a whole plant blow up somewhere in Pennsylvania. So when you
I'm sorry, let me take that back from Kentucky. It's West Virginia is said to be deploying 300 to 400 National Guard troops. South Carolina is said to be sending 200 National Guard troops, and Ohio is sending 150 military police members. And yeah. So
South Carolina, I know that storm, that it kind of is going to veer off to Bermuda, but if that storm would have hit your state, you have the bandwidth to have 200 National Guards over there playing RoboCop in DC versus being there and ready to respond to a real dang on disaster.
Right. And that's in addition to those who are already in the area.
Because you already have the DEA, the FBI, ICE, you done took over the Metropolitan Police. Like, you got all of this happening. For what? For what? And now you are, instead of finding housing, you're just pulling homeless people off the street and what have you. But again, as they said, all the restaurant reservations down, bars down. People are going to stop.
Tourism, if it isn't already being impacted, it will be impacted.
Tourism is already being impacted. I dropped the article about that. Why would you come?
Well, and here's the thing. It's one of those
look at they experienced Helene and still trying to recover. Right.
Yeah.
But we could spare 200 National Guards. Stop it. What the nonsense? I don't understand why people are not like, what the hell are you doing with my tax dollars?
Well, that could be the question across many of these conversations. But I will say that, I think what is most disgusting to me is, again, you have a Black woman sitting as the mayor, Muriel Bowser, and she is clearly being targeted, right? In a lot of ways, she's attempted to work with this administration. I don't necessarily agree with it, but she has attempted to do so. But on top of that, it's the double-edged sword. Like you said, you are now impacting tourism. You're now impacting the economy of a city that if crime was low, then crime will now increase, because that's what happens. Like, as the gentleman, and I think you sent the video, the young man was talking about what is a real cause for crime. Well, poverty is when people usually commit crimes, when they don't have food to eat, and you're cutting food programs, when they don't have health care and you're cutting our health care. Like, that's what makes people resort to criminal activity. Yep. And so now you have all these business owners, many of whom are people of color. Their businesses are going to be impacted as a result of this. So it's like you want to starve this city. You want to squeeze this city. You want to, again, round up young predominantly Black men, to throw them in jail so that you can help your buddies who are investing in these privatized prisons. And it feels like a perpetual cycle. And I know that, we're talking about in Sunday school all the time about prayer and understanding the will of God, and not allowing ourselves, I guess, to get too frustrated, if you will, about what's going on. But it's hard not to, because you see, again, the very clear racism that's going on. And not to mention, you have 2 HBCUs in the DC metropolitan area. And so if you're a Black student, God forbid, if you're a Black student or a student of the African diaspora, and you have a last name and an accent, that you will be targeted for multiple reasons.
So I dropped in the comments there, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And because, as you said, and I'm just going to go ahead and share this on the screen for a second, because here's the thing. As you said, physiological needs, air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, those basic needs. And then the one above it for safety, personal security, employment, resource, health, and property. If those basic needs are not met, that's why you have crime. That's why you have homelessness. That's why you have this destructive behavior. Because those foundational needs must be met before we can get to all the other needs.
Right.
So that's what I think, as you said, this is about stripping away those basic needs that make us human. In this lockdown in DC, so we got every federal agency. Do y'all know how much money is being wasted on this? But you're going to say you don't have enough money to pay teachers? You're going to say we don't have enough money for free lunch programs? Our food programs in schools? We don't have enough money to do whatever, but we're wasting billions, with a B, of dollar on salaries for people to be walking the street who don't need to be out there walking the street, who could be doing other things. Maybe like opening up the Epstein files. How about that? Maybe prosecuting some real crimes.
Yeah.
Maybe getting, instead of extorting institutions of higher learning to give money, where's that money going?
Oh, in the Trump family coffers.
Where's that money going? Because if the Department of Education is being dismantled, you're extorting money from Harvard and Columbia so that they can even be able to compete or request grants from the NIH, which they still may not get after they done gave this money to the where is that money going? Because what we do know is that with these pulling all these people off the street, as you said, follow the money. Who owns the prisons? Follow the money. Who is running that food program in Gaza that's sanctioned by the U.S. and Israel, and that's the only way people can. The other global aid agencies have been locked out, except for one. Follow the money. Follow the money.
And speaking of that, before we go to the next topic, because you brought up Gaza, I think it is important to note that, as we have seen, y'all's buddy Trump and Putin met in Alaska, and kudos to Gavin Newsom right now for doing all the trolling that he's doing. But to see this meeting and have absolutely no outcome. Like when this dude told y'all he had, what was it, plans or thoughts of plans or whatever it was, it is like we are literally living in a time where a person is now inviting somebody and using our taxpayer dollars to meet with a known dictator a known killer. I mean, like former KGB agent, definitely has got individuals murked.
Yeah,
And
Navalny, they killed that man.
right. And so you invite him to American soil to shake hands and to say, suddenly, now it looks like, just a few weeks ago, he was crazy. He was this, that, and the third. Then, now from what I've heard and read and listened to, Russia threatened to come up with some pictures and some information that, Trump doesn't want to come out. Because we already heard about the peeing on you, as the words of Dave Chappelle. We've already heard about the peeing situation.
The Orwellians of the situation.
Right, in the Russian hotels. So there's been some threats, and then suddenly your tune has changed, and suddenly now it's, we're shaking hands with a known assassin, again, dictator, killer, terrorist. And now you're going to say basically that Ukraine should give up its land. And if we don't think that this is going to be the same thing that happens when he's talking all this sporty about Benjamin Netanyahu right now, suddenly, let's see, in a few more weeks, he'll meet with Netanyahu, and then it'll be like, yep, y'all need to give up Gaza. Yep, Palestinians, y'all need to give up the homeland. And so for all the people who didn't vote for Kamala Harris because she was the one who supported genocide, I just frankly ask, what is this? Because it looks like that's direct support of continued war and continued genocide. And like you said, and then you have an agency that is luring hungry, starving people to come and get food, and you're killing them.
Yep.
I mean, there's a level of decency that I'm just like, oh my God.
A level of depravity, you mean?
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying it's a level of decency that they haven't reached. And it's just like, yes. So they're very depraved, and it is problematic. So next policing situation.
Well, I would say, listen, y'all, make sure just start doing some research and look at who owns these as they pop up in different places. Florida, Louisiana, other states. Look who owns these federal detention centers and who will be getting those federal contracts.
Right.
Because there are immigration detention centers popping up everywhere.
And they talked about in Louisiana, in Alexandria, on the tarmac. There is a detention center on the tarmac of the airport. So they're flying all these planes from across the country into Louisiana, and then from Alexandria, Louisiana, out to these respective countries that may or may not have anything to do with the person who's being sent there. But they have a detention center on the tarmac. So they get off the first plane and they go, it's a 400-person detention center on the tarmac. Like, that blows my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And now everybody wants another alligator Alcatraz.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the level of depravity, and indecency, let me say it like that. But alas.
Whew, child, call the police. Because we ain't never going home. Now, the next story. All right, y'all. Y'all know we love New Orleans. And I'm a fan of Titi because I think she has done some really good things. But Titi has also been clowning. And we've known for a while, like we said, every African American in public office who needs to be like pristine, beyond pristine at this point in time, because from the time you in, they coming after you. Now, some of you may know, may not have heard, but you know, there's been a relationship, allegedly, And it started with the filing of the divorce papers from the wife of said security, her private detail. And she was named. Now, that happened before her husband passed away, if I recall correctly.
I believe so, yes.
And so then her little husband passed away, little Jason, and we were like, oh Lord, that's been like 2 years now, I believe.
Yeah.
And just Friday, an indictment came down where 18 counts indictment against Mayor Cantrell and her NOPD Bae, Jeffrey Vapid.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna say this. I think if she has a really good lawyer and he has a really good lawyer, a lot of the counts they might be able to get. A jury might find them not guilty because a lot of it is sordid. It's about an affair. It's about a personal relationship. Now, the parts that are going to catch them up, it's always the cover up. So the count on perjury and lying to the grand jury, that might be the one that gets you. And the one where it is stated that she instructed her NOPD officer Detail Bay to investigate, get personal information, and threaten someone who was, a citizen who was questioning or making some statements. I think those might be the two more difficult ones, but a lot of the others, I don't know. Everybody is innocent until proven guilty. This is just an indictment. These are just, but if you read the indictment, I don't know, do you have it pulled up?
Well, what I am looking at is on NOLA.com, which I think is very interesting because it has key players in the federal investigation. And so it talks about some of these other individuals who are tied to it. So if you go to NOLA.com and look up Mayor LaToya Cantrell indicted, I think I can't pull it up because all this with the phone situation and all that stuff. But I think... So to your point, so first let me say this. Again, we know that we are sitting in a space where many of the major cities in this country are being led by African Americans, specifically, in some cases, Black women. We had the mayor, again, Karen Bass in Los Angeles, Muriel Bowser in DC. We have Eric Adams, albeit he is a Black man who also has been facing his own laundry list of criminal inquiries. I'll say that. You had Lauren, I can't remember her name, who used to be San Francisco's mayor. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on her name now. Mm-hmm. And then, Mayor Cantrell in New Orleans, we had Sylvester Turner previously in Houston. So at one point there was this, and then you have the gentleman in Chicago. I can't think, I'm blanking on his name right now too. So we have this, and of course the brother in Baltimore, we have this group of young Black mayors across the country. And we have a racist sitting in the White House who is specifically targeting, you're racist, and he has to feed his base. So there's that. To your point, I don't think that in a lot of cases, I am certain that what Mayor Cantrell is being accused of, the accusations of having an affair, while it may be unsavory or distasteful, it is not illegal. Mm-hmm. So there's that part. But the part that makes it problematic and potentially illegal is if you're using taxpayer dollars, you're lying to say you're supposed to be in one place and you're actually somewhere else. So you were supposed to be at a conference in Miami and you end up going to Martha's Vineyard and your bae comes up there and meets up with you. Like you said, lying to a grand jury, you have all these WhatsApp and warning to everybody, clearly WhatsApp.
Clock that. Go ahead, tell them about that WhatsApp. It's supposed to be encrypted in secret, huh? Clock that.
It's supposed to be encrypted in secret, and I believe it was 15,000. Was it 15,000 WhatsApp messages? It's a plethora. I'll put it like that. It's a plethora. Obviously, we had, as we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, we had former New Orleans Mayor Ray Nagin also served time for criminal activity, federal charges as well. So I think that it goes back to the crux of it is
Governor Edwin Edwards, 2 times.
Yeah, Edwin Edwards, he ain't black though. But it goes back to we have to be impeccable in a way that other people do not. And while it's not fair, and I don't agree with it and I don't condone it, it is what it is. I mean, that's why Barack Obama was literally unimpeachable, because he understood the real assignment, which is that we can't have the blemishes. And God bless LaToya Cantrell. And I'm gonna be mindful of even using the term TD, because to some degree, there could be some racist implications and undertones to that, depending on who's using it and saying it, right? But while there are things that I think she's done very well, I think there's a lot of things that she missed the mark on. And part of it was allowing this personal relationship, because baby, ain't nobody worth going to the federales for.
So, and here's the thing, she did a lot of things. Like you said, she did a lot of things, the things she could do better. Guess what? That's every damn body on the face, under the name of the earth, on the face of the sun. We all do some things well and can do some other things better. And on top of that, having the discernment and having the wisdom to not put ourselves in a position where our integrity, our credibility, and our competence is called into question. Right. And that's the thing that frustrates and angers me, because it's like, you at the end now, right? She ain't but 80 more days till we get to November, and 70 some days till we get to November, and there'll be another election, and who will be there? I don't know. Will it be a runoff? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with the next. But you had an opportunity for being the first woman elected as mayor, and then reelected, even when these people had been investigating you for a minute.
Yeah, because we've been talking about that fact for a while. Like, these investigations have been ongoing.
The fact, and you were reelected, and you really should have elevated. And I don't know, but as the saying goes, maybe a leopard can't change his spot. I don't know.
Well, I'll end with this. Like you said, there is another mayoral election on the horizon.
Yes. And
one of the things, there is no endorsement. I ain't throwing no names, no hats. I'm not tossing support behind any specific candidate. But what I will say is, I am amazed that who appears to be the front runner has spent the last 8 years on the city council.
You mean the whole time Cantrell was mayor?
Yes. And
the whole time? Okay, keep going.
been overlapping the entire time and has utilized her platform on many occasions to have this back and forth with Mayor Cantrell, which obviously we were like, okay, so girl, you running for mayor
We
because
just saw where you was coming from, Helena. Her name is Helena Moreno. We know where you've been coming from, girl.
Right. And so I just say, like,
what her district? What she do? What she do for her people? What she do for the city?
You would have to ask her district, and you would have to ask the city. All I know is we have got to stop with these politicians making promises, and we're gonna wait until you get into office to show us. If you want to show us, show us. Because if you're a servant leader, you serve regardless. That's how I see it. But before we get to this next story, I hope that
I say hold everyone accountable equally. I'm putting it there in the chat. So
yeah, very much so.
Guilty, we're gonna see what happens. I think there's if they have good attorneys, I think there's a strong likelihood a lot of these they can get off.
Right. And again, we may not like affairs, we may have problems with them, but they're not illegal. What is illegal is when you defraud the taxpayers.
I mean, we saw the whole CEO at the Coldplay concert, like, girl, ducking and moving, right?
Right.
I mean, affairs are they are what they are. They're not illegal in this country.
Right. So, however, there is going to be consequences. And again, because we know, number one, she's a Black person. Number two, she's a Black woman. The consequences are going to be likely. Folks like to try to make an example out of us.
Girl, but if they reduce the sentence or they move Ghislaine Maxwell to a different prison and reduce her sentence, I mean, talk about inequitable.
Well, welcome to the US of A.
In the words of Donald Glover, this is America. All right. We offer that. Ooh, child. Which one you want to go to next, child?
It doesn't matter. I'll see. I like to be surprised as well.
Okay, well, let's go on. Has Uncle Nearest gone too far? So, as you all know, Uncle Nearest is a whiskey brand that started about 8 years ago or so. It tells a story of Nearest Green, who was really the master distiller who taught Jack Daniels everything that he knew. And Fawn Weaver, CEO of this company, grew and built this company to $1 billion valuation in a very short time. Now there's a lawsuit from Farm Credit that is stating that they have not met their financial obligations in terms of their owing over $100 million in loans and defaulting because of some assets and what have you, and some deals. And you can read, we dropping a link in there so you can read the article yourself, and there are other articles. It's a $108 million lawsuit. So this is what we know. This is what I know for sure. If you're a small business and you're growing a business, you are going to take on some debts. You have some assets, you take on some debts. Now, part of one of the things in the filing is that the assets were inflated. They said that they fired their CEO who was on their leadership team. They did fire that CFO.
CFO, yes.
They fired that CFO once they found out that that person kind of did some things that were not aligned with their values. And they've been working to recover from that. And yeah, so one of the response has been, because obviously also last week there was information about the lawsuit and then receivership. And let me define receivership. So receivership is
like you said, sort of like a conservatorship. It's
to
like have a middle person,
party, right? It's a court appointed person to manage assets and property. It doesn't mean that person is not the owner anymore, what have you. It's just that, you know what? They have a neutral third party to look at everything, right? And so first video I saw was like, hey, I want you all to clear the shelves, like just show it's been.
I need you to play. I know we're running long time. I need you to play both of these videos. The dates on the first one and the date on the second one. I need you to play both of these videos.
Okay, she want me to play both of the videos. Okay, hold on, y'all.
And you don't have to play them all, but play enough. Okay, because context is everything.
Context is everything. Okay, so this is the first one here.
Until someone comes forward and cross-examines. Proverbs 18:17. Well, my response has been filed, and I trust the truth will now get just as much attention on social media and in the press as the intentional misleadings and hit pieces. Y'all, I had hit pieces. That is kind of cool. Make sure to read the emails attached as exhibits. They're doozies. But before you go and read that, since so many eyes are on me right now, I'll take a page from Winston Churchill and Warren Buffett. Never waste a good crisis. So let me run some stats for you, then I've got a request. Uncle Nearest is the only independent whiskey brand in the top 50 and one of the few spirit brands, period, seeing double-digit growth in revenue, volume, and velocity. Over the past week or so, I've traveled the country meeting with our customers, distributors, and Uncle Nearest enthusiasts. The first stop was the DMV, where our year-over-year growth is.
So that was August 3rd. Okay. So that's a couple of weeks ago. And so this was a more recent video.
For evil, God meant for good. Y'all know I'm under a gag order because so many have reported it. But here's what I know I can say. 2 points, and make sure to share this since lies tend to spread faster than the truth. Number 1, keep clearing the shelves. Every bottle you move tells our distributors and partners the same thing. We've built one of the strongest and most resilient brands in American history. Number 2, don't believe the fake news. Some reports claim I no longer own Uncle Nearest, that I'm not running it. Let me be clear. I built this company, I own this company, I run this company. And my leadership team, who have all been with me for 6 to 8 years, are right here building alongside me. Our team remains unshaken and unmoved. If that ever changes, you'll hear it directly from me, and I know you will respond accordingly. All major challenges are inevitable in ownership. That's why so many tap out. And my number 1 piece of advice to would-be entrepreneurs is, if you are of the quitting kind, don't start, because.
So you all can go to the Instagram and watch the videos yourself and make your own judgment. So what I will say is that when you start a business and you're growing fast, you take on debt sometimes, and you get credit based on your credit score, your company valuation, and what have you. Now, there's businesses like WeWork. Remember WeWork? WeWork was worth how many billion? Is what they valued it at, and it went out of business. Mm-hmm. There are many.
Well, we know from that little, what's her name, Elizabeth Holmes, who in jail right now, that little thieving girl, how much did she say her businesses were worth?
Elizabeth Holmes. Is Elizabeth Holmes still, or is she out of jail? I think she out.
No, she's still up in there. Her and Ghislaine at the same place now.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah. Yeah,
to your point.
In 11 months. And what was the name of that company? Theranos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So these valuations, and she's right. Ownership comes with risk, and it comes with responsibility as well. I think this is going to be a tough one. It is going to be a tough one. And I support, because y'all know I'm 10 toes, 10 fingers, knees, everything down for Black-owned businesses. So I support. I don't drink whiskey like that, but I support, right? I support any way that I can, and I believe in supporting it. However, these responses, they're a little lackluster for me. And I don't count them as transparency. I would be in terms of, especially as we're quoting scripture, that question is about discernment. I would be a little more discerning from getting on and even saying anything in social media. But to each his own. I say I want to see that brand continued in her ownership and the ownership of their family, because they're building something, lasting and permanent. But yeah, this $100 million lawsuit and not paying loans, because I'm like, if you were getting to that point, then why didn't you file for bankruptcy already and reorganize your debt? Because businesses do that all the time as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nothing that she's talking about or nothing that's happening there is out of the realm of possibility of normal business operations and growing a business very fast. Because that's the other thing. When you grow a business very fast, usually when you lift the head up, there's usually some imbalances with assets and with cash on hand. And credit. That's just, it is, because that's the nature of building sustainable businesses.
So here's what I'll say. So like you, I wish them the very best. We want this brand to last. We want them to continue to build a legacy, because legacy building and generational wealth are very important in our community. Fawn Weaver has been an exceptional marketer, and they have taken the Uncle Nearest story and they have turned it into a very profitable business. Mm-hmm. To your point, there is nothing unusual about getting loans as you are growing. What I will say, where I do have some questions on both sides, is from Farm Credit standpoint, if they were, since July, the initial loan, so what I have here, the initial loan was $35 million in July 2022. The total loan increased to $67 million, plus additional loans of $20 million and $15 million. And so the total debt, including interest, is reported to be $108 million. I'm not sure why you would continue to give them money if you believe that the assets were inappropriately or improperly valued, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So according to this, Farm Credit claims that the company misrepresented the value of their whiskey barrels, and because they use that as collateral. And so they allege that Uncle Nearest owns $20 million less in whiskey inventory than reported. And so if they are proven to be guilty in this way, Farm Credit could seize up to 77,000 barrels of whiskey, which would basically cripple their business. Right. Now, so I have questions about why y'all kept lending money if the math wasn't math. I have those questions. But on the flip side, in the last video that you did not continue, my good sis goes down the list of these increases in sales across the country, state by state and what have you. All well and good. But sis, I've got to ask, if your numbers are that tight, then how did your CFO, who you ultimately fired, misrepresent your numbers in the first place. Because as a CEO, you're supposed to know your numbers, right? Anybody ever watch Shark Tank, you know, as soon as they step into the tank, they're asking all kind of questions about their valuation, their expenses, the cost of sales, all of those things. If you know those numbers like this, I'm not sure how you let some CFO misrepresent your money or your value in
Or
terms
the
of getting
quantity of barrels you had on hand, or any
right
of it.
in terms of getting these loans.
Yeah.
So I absolutely, like you, wish them the very best. I would like to suggest that maybe they invest in some crisis PR management, because I don't think a crisis PR manager, I don't think Olivia Pope would have said make those posts. Just say that. I don't think Olivia would have said do those.
Or Papa Pope would have said do those. Nah.
Or the real Judy Smith probably would not have said do those.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So anyway, well, look, we already at an hour, so
What we got? What else did we have?
listen. We're gonna talk Texas.
Okay.
Listen.
Yeah.
We got to spend more time on this because we're gonna see what happens in California. I know they put the thing on the. This redistricting fight in Texas is real, and if you had any delusions or people who are so disillusioned by the Democratic and the Democratic Party, this is where their game begins at reshaping state houses. That's why so many states are red states now, because this is how they do it. This is how they do it. Regardless of population growth, population changes, and you're like wondering, well, how the hell can this be? Regardless of population growth, regardless of population changes, how they have managed to maintain this lock on power is doing the redistricting. And even when the federal, when they've had lawsuits come down and what have you, and force them to make some changes, then they just wait and they're doing a mid-decade redistricting.
I think that one of the things that, you know, is not also being talked about is about the fact that in Louisiana, there is also a fight about representation, that we're supposed to be getting some more Black, if you will, districts. And for lack of better word, I hate when they say it like that, but you know, that's what they call it.
They base it on the census data and the population, and based on where the population is, if the majority of the citizens in that area, they assume and presume that this is who the person is going to be. But that's what that is about. So when they call them Black districts or Hispanic districts or any of that BS, that's what it's based on. But the fact is, they're supposed to have 2 new districts.
Right. And so I say all
that. And in Texas, it's like, hey, redraw me 5 districts so that I can have a majority of the House, so that I can really move us towards The Handmaid's Tale. And if you haven't read The Handmaid's Tale, or if you haven't watched the series The Handmaid's Tale, remember, it started in DC. That was the first thing that fell.
All right. Well, since I'll leave it at that, I mean, there's a lot more that needs to be said about this. All I know is, I believe Mr. Sylvester Turner, who took Sheila Jackson Lee's place, passed away back in April, if I recall. It is now August. There has been no representation for that district. Greg Abbott is waiting to do a special election. And so in November, and it sounds like he's trying to push through these changes to this redistricting, so that would be one of those areas that Black representation would likely disappear from. And so again, like my girl said, You know, people always want to ask why we pull the race card. But honey, whether it's if we playing spades, top of the deck, bottom of the deck, if French cut, we gonna always pull that race card because it's always there. Like there is no other conversation than to be had than this is straight out racist. If you're trying to eliminate seats that would traditionally go to Black and brown people because it's representative of your population changes. So
if you just do it fair and you that good, then you'll win. Just do it fair. Just be right.
Well,
just do it based on the population.
Right.
Because if you draw the district, because again, as you and I know, that's why some of these districts have all these twists and turns, and you're like, well, wait a minute, how do you skip over this large chunk of population and go over here? You got a S curve of a district and a C curve of a district because you trying to because of the gerrymandering.
Well, and I think that again, we talked about Elie Mystal's book, Bad Law. I've talked about it, referenced it before, and as he said, this number, what is it, 435, I think it is, of representatives in the House. Like that number is it's just a number that they picked years ago, and even that should have been adjusted. So if we're talking about actual representation,
yes, then
we would be calculating the number of representatives very differently. And I think he uses the I think it's called Wyoming law. Don't quote me. Y'all can listen to the book, buy the book, read it. But basically it's like if you take the population of Wyoming as the smallest population, the least populated state, and you even did the math on so many thousands of people get a representative, we would still nearly double the number of representatives we had. And so that would definitely change how laws get made, how things get done.
And we might actually have laws for the people and by the people.
Correct.
Anyway, well, with that, y'all, don't go to sleep. Reclaim woke and stay woke.
Have a good night.